There is a right-wing takeover of the British media, and the woke leftists are having a meltdown as a result. Hello everyone and welcome to today's show. We have big news for you guys. As you know on this channel, I talk about Boris Johnson and his government a lot, especially recently, whether it's with Brexit, where they're doing really well, or the lockdown policies, where they're not doing too well. And I always try to be objective, where someone does something good, you praise them. If not, you criticize them and you scrutinize the whole situation. Boris Johnson and the whole team are now showing good signs when it comes to the fight back with the mainstream media that has been dominated for decades now by the woke leftists. We have Charles Moore and Paul Dacre. Charles Moore, who was the Margaret Thatcher's biographer, and also Paul Dacre, who was the editor of the Daily Mail. These guys are now the two names that will hopefully be heads of the BBC and Ofcom, the regulator. As you know on this channel, I've been talking about the BBC bias, but also the fact that the biggest problem we have in this country with the media is actually Ofcom as a regulator that's been making things so difficult in terms of the competition in the market and also the way these media outlets are operating. Now, obviously, Boris Johnson and Number 10 are quite serious about reforming the BBC, but also the whole British media in general. That's why we have Paul Dacre as an option to be the head of Ofcom, to make a lot of changes. Now, let's have a look into this thing, because so Boris, as the article in the Times, Sunday Times, mentions, essentially is starting a revolution at the top of the British broadcasting by offering two of the top jobs in television to outspoken critics of the BBC. So both Paul Dacre and Lord Moore are conservative, Brexiteer, and they are not in favour of the current establishment, the media establishment. So the whole point of this is that both of these guys have previously talked about reforming the TV license and also decriminalising the whole situation. So this is, I think, going to be Charles Moore's first move as the new BBC boss, to decriminalise the TV license and also look into the alternative funding model. So this is actually good news. One thing is that obviously a lot of people are kicking off. So Charles Moore's appointments clears the way for decriminalisation of those who refuse to pay the BBC licence fee. So that's one thing. But Paul Dacre, who used to be in the Daily Mail, is obviously a big name. He's one of the best editors that we've had in the history of press in this country. We have a quote from him from a few years ago about the BBC. He says, BBC journalism starts from the premise of left-wing ideology. It is hostile to conservatism and the traditional right, Britain's past and British values, America, Ulster Unionism, Euroscepticism, capitalism and big business, the countryside, Christianity and family values. Conversely, it is sympathetic to Labour, European federalism, the state and state spending, mass immigration, minority rights, multiculturalism, alternative lifestyles, abortion and progressiveness in the education and the justice systems. I mean, yeah, he's probably on the fence, right? He's very he's very good. He's very robust, and the issue is that the Labour Party and the Liberal left are kicking off. So we have the shadow culture secretary from the Labour Party, Joe Stevens, who was on Sky News talking about this with Sophie Ridge, and about the whole BBC bias and Paul Dacre. Yeah, she's not too happy, and this is her reaction.
Paul Dacre once said that BBC journalism is reflected through a left-wing prism that affects everything. It exercises a kind of cultural Marxism. Do you think he's right?
I don't think he's right. I think if you look at the BBC, you will have people complaining that it's too left-wing in its presentation of political issues. You'll have people complaining that it's too right-wing. And the fact that they're both complaining suggests to me that it's probably got it somewhere right in the middle of it. And so the BBC is very important to us. You know, the BBC...
Well, that's the thing. So I understand what she's trying to say, because we've heard this a lot. Right-wingers say the BBC is left-wing, left-wingers say the BBC is right-wing for some reason. It's not true. We know that when we talk about the left-wing bias of the BBC. We're talking about the agenda, the people in charge who are all thinking the same, the majority of them, especially the people in charge at the top. And the fact that every now and then they have to obviously criticize the left is firstly because of the BBC Charter, but also because of Ofcom. They can't really obviously unmask themselves in that sense. No pun intended. So obviously we have our Sunday contributor, Andre Walker, with us. Let's go to Andre and see what he's thinking about this whole situation.
It's a bit of a cold day though today, isn't it? It's suddenly feeling a little bit like winter.
Yes, yeah, no one told us though, but that's the whole problem. It's winter, not just for us, but for the BBC and Ofcom. Yeah, I just came up with it.
I love the way you did that, Maya. Look, you're just a seamless professional.
I know. So yeah, what are you thinking? Because this is big news. Charles Moore potentially as the head of BBC and Paul Dacre from the Daily Mail as the head of Ofcom. Obviously, the leftists are having a meltdown, but what do you think?
Well, it's something I think that actually we on the right have been traditionally quite bad at. Because what would happen is there'd be all these organisations like Ofqual or indeed Ofcom or whatever, where they'd be absolutely full of left-wingers. People would have, there'd be the website for Quangos, I think it's publicappointments.gov.uk, and there'd be, applications particularly encouraged from minority groups. And so people would come in with sort of experience in minorities, but very often the majority view was never put forward by these organisations. And so sometimes it felt like whichever way you voted in a general election, the main body of the government, these quangocrats, would remain just as left-wing apparatchiks.
Yes, obviously being the head of BBC or Ofcom is a big role. You have a lot of influence, but the fear that I have is that the middle management and people just underneath that, the bosses, are still obviously going to be fighting back because they're liberal left. Do you think as the new heads, these guys will have full influence to basically either fire some of these people or change their behaviour, or are they going to be facing challenges?
Well, of course. Funnily enough, I used to have a flatmate, and when I worked in government, I always used to bound in every night going, we've done this really amazing thing. We've made X organisation better. And he'd go, why have you not just abolished it? And I'd go, damn, you beat me every time. Look, I think that the British media market has been comprehensively destroyed by Ofcom, and the best thing that you can do is get rid of it. Now, remember, Ofcom is desperate to regulate YouTube so that channels like this will be forced to have the dire balance that the BBC has and the ITV have. And so I think Ofcom itself should be got rid of. In terms of the BBC, look, you've been running a campaign for some time to defund the BBC, which is just a very American phrase for get rid of the damn thing, which is the way I would have said it. But actually, there's only so much you can do as the chairman of an organisation that essentially should not exist. Now, if they are sound enough to abolish themselves, then fine. But if not, then this is not as much of a thing as perhaps people think. But it was nice to see Damien McBride getting angry about it, because McBride is a real left-wing wrong, and if he's upset, then there's going to be something in it.
Yeah, even the shadow cabinet, the shadow culture secretaries come out to defend the BBC. She said, well, the BBC isn't left-wing or right-wing. Suddenly, she changed her tune because people like her used to say the BBC were right-wing. And now she's saying it's actually balanced. It's get criticised by both sides, but it's actually quite balanced. I'm like, oh, now you're defending the BBC.
Well, yeah, and of course we never get to ask any questions about why all these lefties are involved in everything. I mean, you might not want Charles Moore as the head of the BBC, although it has to be said he's not a bad choice. I mean, he's a well-qualified guy. But James Pennell is the head of radio. He's a former Labour Secretary of State. What is amazing here is that the rules don't apply to the right. I've said this before. Commentators like us on the right find it very, very difficult to get on to outlets. There are things like talk radio, which are okay, but, producers like the BBC are much more sceptical. Somebody like Owen Jones makes an absolute fortune. And so, the rules on bias only ever apply to the right-wingers. They don't apply to the left-wingers.
No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot, obviously, to talk about, especially this Sunday. And as you guys know, obviously, Andre and I have a Sunday video podcast as well, basically like a longer version of this. We go throughout the whole week, and obviously Andre has a newish channel which is going really well. I'll put obviously the link on the screen as well, so you could click on it and subscribe. But these video podcasts that we have is for the members of the channel. So if you want to watch that, it will be posted at 8 p.m. as usual tonight. Go on youtube.com/MarioTousi/join. Again, the link is in the description. Andre, sell the video podcast to people as usual.
Look, I genuinely look forward to it absolutely every week. What we do is we do a roundup of the various videos that have been on my channel, but also we talk about the issues, because if you do watch my channel, what happens is I tend to just talk to the camera myself. So it's great to kind of bounce off ideas with Maya. And look, the other thing that I always say is, and people sometimes misunderstand this, we're able to discuss absolutely everything. The big problem on the main YouTube channel is because there's advertising, you can't have an absolutely no holds barred discussion, but we can do that on the monetized thing. And also, the other thing about the video podcast, it just strikes me that it's really, really great to be able to support the channel, and it's only £5 a month to do it.
Yeah, no, again, absolutely right. But yeah, guys, become a member. The link is in the description. The video will just appear as like a normal video if you're a member. And we'll see you guys on the other side.